All right, looks like we are live. Welcome to Standing for Truth. My name is Donnie B, and I'm your host and moderator for tonight's debate between Luca Medugno, who just accidentally dropped, but he'll be back in here in 30 seconds, and Dr. Kent Hovind on beneficial mutations. This is a continuation of our 2022 Evolution Debate Challenge series. And so if you're new to this channel, but you love debates, interviews, lectures, presentations, and more, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. I've also got the entire Evolution Debate Challenge series that we've been hosting here, over 35 of them so far, up on the website and also on the YouTube channel under our playlist section. So be sure to check that out. Kent Hovind, brother, since you're the one here for now until Luca comes back, why don't we start with you in terms of an introduction? How you doing, and a little bit about yourself.
Doing great. God's good. Some of his kids still drive me nuts, but doing good. I'm in Lenox, Alabama, straight north of Pensacola. Kent Hovind, been a Baptist preacher 48 years, taught high school science and math 15 years. And last night, we're unloading the trailer, and I walked into the cable holding the trailer up. So if you see the boo-boo on the nose, oh well, life's tough, and then you die, like my dad would say. So anyway, I believe the Bible is true. Evolution is stupid. It's worse than stupid. It's dangerous. We teach the kids they're an animal and then sit back and wonder, why are they acting like animals? Duh. I think it's absolutely criminal what we're doing in our school system, using just plain lies to teach the kids that they came from an ape or an amoeba. We'll be talking about that tonight. Anyway, so I believe the Bible is true. Our Christian ministry here is growing great. A Dinosaur Adventureland, visitors coming all the time from all over the world. Come on down. Are they let you guys out of Canada yet? Or are you still captive?
I'm not sure yet. One of these days, I'm gonna have to swim across the river and make my way over to Dinosaur Adventureland, brother.
Oh, come on down. Come on down. We'll harbor the refugee down here.
Appreciate the intro there, Kent. And as I wait for Luca to join, I will announce we just booked Kent's 300th debate. It is going to be a big event. It's going to be the end of the month, August 29th. And it'll be Dr. Hovind versus Dr. Jay Bundy. And he's a PhD evolutionary biologist who's trained under Richard Lenski. So that's going to be an epic debate number 300. So everybody make sure to click your reminders. And there he is, Luca. Good to have you back. Hope everything's okay.
My phone overheated. So yeah, now I'm using a fresh bottle of water to resolve the problem. Sorry.
A fresh bottle of water for your overheated phone. Well,
yes,
appreciate it, Luca. Okay, let's hand it over to you for an intro in terms of who you are, Luca, and a little bit about yourself. Thanks for being here.
Yes, as most of you know, I'm a chemist. I do have a degree in chemistry, and I work as a teacher in Italy. I teach Italian, history, and music and geography. As for now, I hope I will soon teach something else, because I do have expertise in other things. So that's me. It's an honor to be here and to debate with Kent, and that's all.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Luca, for that introduction. Your relevant links are in the description box, and the same goes with Dr. Kent Hovind. So specifically, the topic for tonight is beneficial mutations. So do beneficial mutations exist, and are they evidence for evolution? Format-wise, it's going to be pretty informal, as in we're going to have Luca give a short presentation on an overview of his arguments for tonight. We'll give Kent equal time, and then we're going to go one by one, and we're going to discuss each point, one topic at a time. As always, there will be an audience Q&A, so please make sure you are tagging me with your questions, but try to wait for your questions until after the opening statements, because I am going to be assisting Luca. Since he's on his phone, I will be the one screen sharing his slides. So if you're sending in questions during the next few minutes, I won't be able to see them. So maybe just wait till after the opening statements. Okay, Luca, we're going to hand it over to you then for your opening presentation. And I guess you're just going to have to guide me along. And floor is yours. Go ahead, Luca.
Don't worry. Beneficial mutation are really a thing? Yes, they are. In this presentation, I will talk about, in particular, 4 things. Beneficial mutation in cattle, in particular on mammary glands. Also on evolution of corn. Yes, that's the slide about cows. And evolution of viviparity in reptiles, in particular lizards. And for last but not least, the multicellular algae problem. So, cattle evolution. Why I think that it's important to look at these animals. You can see there a Marmara cattle. It's a very close relative to the aurochs. In reality, it was bred to look like the aurochs. So it's quite important. If you look at the structure, it's quite different. Why I think that's a result of mutation? Well, I have a couple of reasons for that. First of all, we have historical data. We do know what was the aurochs, what were his characteristics. So we know that the older model, let's say that it's the one with the Maremma cattle. The second one with the Friesian cattle, it's the mutant, the new one. Also, we have in vivo fertilization used for the cattle. I will talk about it later. Let's go to corn. So here you can see teosinte and corn. As you can see, you all can see, they are quite a different plant. We know for sure that one is the ancestor and the other is the descendant. How we do know it? Through archaeology. We do have findings that support this hypothesis. Also, genetic evidence. We'll talk later maybe on that. And for last, we do have hybrids. I think there is a photo of the hybrids. You can see there teosinte, it's the smaller one. Corn, I think that all of you know corn. And the one in the middle, it's the hybrid. So we do know that's the same kind, let's say that. Now, lizards. I did not share anything on lizards, but the most important things it's viviparity, meaning the ability to bear live children. It's observed in reptiles quite a lot. 95 cases reported. I do have quite a lot of material on that. You can find it on my channel. So, lizard, how do we know that actually evolution? Because it's quite important. We do know it because we observe it. We have a specific example about lizards, and it's about a lizard called Lerista bogavivi, and it's an Australian lizard, and in the same species, we can observe a lizard that can bear live children, and other that lay eggs in the same species. So it's quite important. Let's go to the last example. The last example, it's the most important one, and you can see there the results of the experiment. But first, you have the title, De Novo Origins of Multicellularity in Response to Predation. I want to be clear, that's multicellularity. It's not a colony, it's not something else. It was tested, and scientists waited for quite a long time before saying that's multicellularity. Also, it's not even the first instance of these kind of things. We have at least 3 examples of that. Just in this experiment, we have 2 instances of evolution of multicellularity. And there you can see how these organisms reproduce. So I'm at the end of my presentation. Thanks for watching, and okay, I'm done.
Okay, Luca, thank you so much. Between 6 and 7 minutes, we'll give Kent equal time, and then we'll just kind of jump into a more free-flowing discussion after that. So Kent, we'll give you between 6 and 7 minutes. Whenever you're ready, brother, go ahead.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Well, Luca, I accept the fact that cows can jump. They have a rodeo here in Texas where they actually ride cows and see who can make them jump the highest. I think the record so far is about 6 feet, a cow to jump 6 feet. So I think if you took your cow to the gym and made it work out every day and gave it vitamins, someday the cow could jump over the moon. No, I don't think the cow will ever jump over the moon. I think there's a limit to how high cows can jump. Have they reached the limit yet? I don't know. I'm probably getting close. Maybe next year somebody will break the record with 6 feet and a half inch or something, or a centimeter for your benefit. Okay, so seeing that cows can jump does not prove they can jump over the moon. There are 16 common cattle breeds, 250 recognized breeds of cows, according to this article. This guy says, oh no, there's 400 different breeds of cows. I don't know. One guy said there's 1,000. There are different breeds of cows. They breed them for multiple purposes, primarily to get more beef or, as you mentioned, to get more milk. These are the beef breeds of cows. These are the dairy breeds of cows. When I was teaching school in Kankakee, Illinois, I took my students to the farmer there in Kankakee, who that year had the world's record producer, gave 100 pounds of milk every day. 100 pounds of milk. That's a lot of milk. And so that was a I don't know, was it a mutation or not? Might have been to cause more milk production. But they can selectively breed cows to get more milk. However, there is a limit. They will never get a cow to give 1,000 pounds of milk a day. They'll never get a cow to give enough milk to fill the Pacific Ocean in a day or in a lifetime. So there are, somewhere along the line, there are limits. And this is what you evolutionists simply do not understand or do not admit. Sure, we see varieties, but they're limited, and it's still a cow. It didn't change it to anything else. And it already had the ability to make milk. It didn't give it any other ability. It didn't start producing grape juice or anything else. It's still a cow. It's still producing milk. They selected the ones that give the most milk and breed those, and pretty soon you got a whole bunch of cows that give a lot of milk. Okay, then you got another problem. Now you got to babysit them because they can't run very fast. They can barely walk. They're the first ones the predators are going to get. So yes, they've increased milk production, but that's not evidence for evolution. That's evidence of artificial selection. That's man selecting which cow he wants to give birth to the next generation. They artificially select the cows to get more milk or more beef or whatever it is. They didn't create anything. They enlarged a trait that already existed. Same thing with the corn. They took the plant that has the little seeds and said, wow, let's selectively breed for the bigger ones and gradually turn maize into corn. It's still a plant. Still a plant. That does not prove that, that animals are related to plants. So you mentioned single cell to multicellular creatures. This is a major problem for evolution, I think, and they're nowhere near solving it. The textbooks teach all the many forms of life on Earth today are descended from a common ancestor. Wow. All the many forms, common ancestor. So humans and mosquitoes and cows have a common ancestor. It says, from a primitive unicellular organism, a single-celled organism. Now, no traces of those events remain. We know what happened, but we can't prove it, is what this textbook is saying. They draw lines on paper in these textbooks all the time and connect all these life forms as if turtles and humans and birds have a common ancestor. This is religion. This is not science. So I think you and I can both agree, Luca, the textbooks do teach all forms of life today come from a common ancestor. That's what they teach. So if we can agree with that, yep, they teach it was a unicellular organism, a single-celled creature. Snakes, turtles, birds and mammals, that's us, have a common ancestor. You go back further, it's a single-celled protozoa. Wow. So we agree the textbooks are teaching this to the kids from kindergarten on, that they came from a protozoa. Protozoa turned into a biology teacher. That's what they teach. So I think we could agree, yes, they do teach that. Now, this one says the shark and the fern and the starfish and the octopus have a common ancestor, which was a single-celled creature. The National Pornographic said, all life on Earth evolved from a single-celled organism roughly 3.5 billion years ago. This is propaganda. This is not science. A new study seems to confirm. The study supports the widely held universal common ancestor theory proposed by Charles Darwin. Oh, okay. They tell them we have a primitive unicellular organism. Luca and anybody else listening, there is no such thing as a primitive unicellular organism. Single-celled creatures are not simple. They recognize 20,000 now kinds of single-celled creatures. They have three parts: cell membrane, nucleus, and cytoplasm. In the cytoplasm, there are fine fibers, hundreds or even thousands of minuscule distinct structures called organelles in one cell. Your body probably contains 100 trillion cells. One person, 100 trillion cells. Each cell is incredibly complex. These organelles are mind-boggling in their complexity. They're suspended in the cytoplasm. You have mitochondria, ribosomes, endoplasmic reticulum, etc., Golgi bodies, and they are amazing in their complexity. Organelles are membrane-bound structures in a cell. You have mitochondria, chloroplasts, etc. You can study each one of those forever. There is no such thing as a simple single. I forgot to start my timer, so you have to tell me, Donnie, when I get close. There. No such thing as a simple single-celled organism. They are complicated. 20,000 species of single-celled creatures: bacteria, amoeba, paramecium, yeast, etc. Just the amoeba can have 670 trillion base pairs in the genome. It's not simple. It's complicated. Trumpet lilies, 90 trillion base pairs in the genome. Humans, 3 trillion. So simple, primitive unicellular, no, there's no such thing. There's no such thing as a simple cell. If it's alive, it's complicated. It'd be easier and simpler to build a space shuttle and launch it into space than to make a single-celled organism. Not one single part of the space shuttle formed itself. Each nut, each bolt was designed. Each screw, every piece was designed. And in the chromosome, and in the E. coli, and in these single-celled creatures, everything is designed. I'm going to go through a whole presentation on my on my YouTube channel about changing from single-cell to multi-celled. It didn't happen. Nobody's ever made a two-celled creature. The slides you showed tonight about the changing from single-cell from algae changing, that didn't happen. We'll talk more about that if you'd like, but there's no such thing as a simple single-cell organism. I'll cover that later on here when I get more time. So you're talking about some of these algae eaters, the trichoplax, and these other ones. I'm out of time, but believe me, there is no such thing as a single-cell organism that's simple, and there's no evidence that any of them became multicellular. The smallest of the group smallest animal are these little ones right here. They have thousands of cells, each one doing distinct parts, but they draw lines on paper connecting them all as if that's because we lined them up on paper, therefore it's related. That's baloney. That's propaganda. Trichoplax made up of a few thousand cells. That's considered the smallest, simplest animal there is. Several thousand cells? That's not simple. 6 different types, 3 different layers. I'm sorry, there's no such thing. There's no evidence at all how a single-celled creature came to life to begin with, or how they became multicellular. Not science. You can believe it if you want, but that's your religion. Admit it. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Kent, for that opening statement. Also, Luca, thank you for yours. Okay, we're now moving into more of a free-flowing back and forth discussion. Luca, since Kent just ended with his opening arguments there, why don't we hand it to you and allow you to lead the way in terms of where you want to take the discussion. If there's a first point you want to discuss, Luca, go ahead. Just make sure to unmute yourself, Luca. And actually, I could probably do that. Yeah, you're good
Yes,
now. Go ahead.
done. So, yes, let's start with cattle. So, Kent, you said that no cow can jump over the moon. Yes, I agree. Evolution does not need to justify that because no animal ever have done anything like that. I think that a god would be able to do something like that. Evolution cannot. So the theory does not need to show that. My point was different though. We do have I've shown a structure that de facto evolved. So we have a better production of milk. We have a bigger gland, and with a bigger gland, you need much more blood, much more blood vessel to keep the tissue alive, more tissue. So you always said that it's impossible for evolution to gain something on an animal, and that's gaining. It's better at doing its job. It has novel structure. So why it's not evolution?
Okay, thank you, Luca. And go ahead, Kent.
What you just demonstrated was because the cows have larger udders and are able to give more milk, they are now producing more milk, have more blood supply, more milk supply, more tissue. I agree. They already had those things. They already had blood, they already had blood supply, they already had the udder, they already had milk. So selecting for the biggest amount of that doesn't mean it's creating anything new. That's not evolution. It didn't create the milk. It created larger milk glands. That's all. So what you demonstrated was an example of man artificially selecting for what he wants. He wants some cows to give more milk. Okay, go for it. They've selected for smaller dogs and gotten chihuahuas now. Waste of a lot of time and money, but they did it. And in the wild, they wouldn't survive. None of these dairy breeds that we see, and probably none of the beef breeds that we see, would survive in the wild on their own. You have to babysit them now. You got to protect them from predators because they wouldn't make it. Natural selection would never create these things. But the evolutionists believe natural selection took a single-celled creature and turned it into a cow. There is no evidence that a single-celled creature has an udder or produces milk at all, or blood vessels. There's so many things have to be added to turn a algae into a cow. Where's the evidence of this? I just simply point out what the whole evolution theory is not even a good theory. It's a religion. In order to be a theory, there has to be some supporting evidence. You start off with a hypothesis, just a guess, create a theory when you get some evidence, and then it becomes a fact when you test it over and over. Evolution is not even in the theory category. It's a religious belief. So what you demonstrated, the cow is giving more milk. I agree. It already had udder. It already had milk. It already had blood supply. I think a bodybuilder that builds big muscles ends up with more blood supply, bigger muscles. He already had muscles and blood supply. Didn't create anything. Okay, go ahead.
Good. So we can agree that you say selection, let's say artificial selection, can increase production, so it can make things better in some way. Also, if you have blood vessel, yes, you have blood vessel to begin with, but you have more of that. So those structures are new. So yeah, we can increase production and we can have de facto beneficial mutation, because for the animal it's beneficial because we do breed those animals to produce milk, so they survive if they produce enough milk. Also, I was talking about insemination. Why? Because if these characteristics are epigenetic, so not coming from genetic material, I cannot understand why we do insemination, because we, even in Italy, we buy the material needed for insemination from America. So it's a very expensive process, and it does not follow. If it's epigenetic, there is no need for it.
The fact that you're having to buy cattle sperm from America to put it into your Italian cows, it's still a cow, didn't change a thing. And that just shows how complex sperm is. Why don't you, you're a chemist, why don't you make some sperm in the laboratory from nothing but chemicals? Could you make a single sperm cell to inseminate a cow?
Well, in theory, yes, it's not that hard. If you start with some material, but yeah, I think it will be possible, very expensive, but in theory, yeah, I think yes. But it does not follow. If it's epigenetic, why buy from America? It does not work like that. If it's genetic, it does have a sense, because you are looking for the best mutation, and we do know that Friesian cattle are the mutated ones, because we have the genetic materials from the hierarchs, and we know that the oldest one.
Well, I think the content of the sperm has been carefully calculated chemically. They know what the proteins are made out of, C, A, T, G. And if I gave you a bottle of each, C, A, T, and G, could you put them together and make a sperm or make a protein? And if some chemists in the laboratory could produce a sperm, which I would say absolutely impossible, but if you could, that would only prove it takes intelligence to create this stuff, which would lead right back to creation. God created the cow, God created the sperm and the egg. God created the ability for the cow to give milk and to have milk glands and to have blood supply to the milk glands and to be exactly the right stuff that the calf needs. It's amazing. I don't know how anybody cannot see design written all over that. So all we've done with our farming, we have selected what we want. We want cows to give more milk, or cows that can stand the heat better, or cows that can stand the cold better. And there are 250 recognized breeds of cows, and they're bred for specific qualities. More beef, more meat, stand the heat, stand the cold, stand the drought, whatever. But they're always cows. Same thing with corn. 6 different types of corn probably had a common ancestor called corn. That's not evolution. I don't see how you guys can't get it. What we've done is man has selected what he wants from the cow or from the corn or from the apples, sweeter apples, bigger apples, smaller apples, I don't know. But they're still the same. They run it just like the cow can't jump over the moon. They run into a limit. Luca, this guy says 400 cattle breeds. Okay. Do you think they'll ever keep breeding their cows and turn the cow into an elephant or into a corn? No, they're going to hit a brick wall. Like you can't jump over the moon. You can't change it from being a cow. God said they would bring forth after their kind. I'd say all these on the screen here are the same kind. They're cow. They didn't change a thing. Go ahead.
Okay. So, yeah, I do not think that the cow will become anything else, but it's not longer an aurochs. And if you want to talk about corn, yes, we do have a lot of corns breeds. Yes, it's correct, but it's not longer Teosinte. But we do know that's related to Teosinte, because it can still produce an hybrid, and an hybrid, it's not the same plant, it's a different thing. So yeah, a cow will never become a grass plant like the corn, yes, but it will maybe divide further in some other kind of, like dairy cows or cows for meat. Right now, you will get an hybrid from different breeds, so it's already sketchy. But my point was, with the cows, we can get new structure, because new blood vessel, even though it's just a blood vessel and gland tissue, it's still more of that, it's still new. And with corn, yes, we do have a lot of corn, but it's not teosinte. Teosinte, it's still related to corn, and we can show it, but it's not corn.
Okay. The cow will always be a cow. We agree. The law of monophyly. But is an amoeba a cow? No. An amoeba is not a cow. But you think an amoeba turned into something that was non-amoeba. How can the amoeba turn into a cow over billions of years? We don't ever see this happening today. It's imagination. You guys imagine that it happened. It's not science. That's my point. The textbooks teach the kids, the humans, the birds, and the reptiles, and the cows. Are they on here? Mammals. Yeah, there we go. And the ladybugs and the pine trees and the worms had a common ancestor. I resent this being taught in the schools. This isn't science. This is a religious doctrine, has nothing to do with science, that humans are related to orangutans. That's baloney. That's not science. You're a primate. That's not science. They make these family trees and have the humans and the bears and the starfish all going back to a common ancestor. My whole point is, I agree with you, cows will always be cows. Now, that's going forward in time. Going backward in time, cows were always cows. They came from two cows getting off a Noah's Ark. And somebody lived in cold climate and said, hey, let's select the cows that have thicker hair because they can handle the cold better. Okay? Now we have breeds like the Hereford, I think it is, that have, or whatever the woolly one is, that have the thicker hair. Okay? It's still a cow. I'll show you right here. There. Right dead center in the middle, the Highland cattle. Okay? They're still a cow. They have long hair. They can survive the cold. Yay, good for them. It didn't change it to anything else. They already had hair. All of them have hair. You selected those with longer hair. That's all that happened. This is selection. This is not creating anything. This does not prove any evolution at all. Sorry. Go ahead.
Good. So, but you avoid the point that the cattle is no longer an aurochs, and teosinte is no longer corn. Corn is no longer teosinte. That's a problem. But you were saying how we can come to that. Okay, let's start with something juicier, because we can agree that natural selection, artificial selection can improve something like the cow. So we are good there. We can have improvements. We can have speciation, because teosinte is no longer corn is no longer teosinte. Sorry. So that's still a problem, because teosinte is quite different from corn, even though we can show it's related. So let's go to the lizards. I cannot show the image of the lizard, but still, there is this fact. These species of lizard can be able or not to bring forth with live children. Some can, some cannot, in the same species. So they did develop a placenta, and we did observe that. How can you explain that? A placenta is a new structure for a lizard.
There are multiple ways that animals reproduce. Some give live birth, in which case inside the mother there is a placenta that takes her blood supply, transfers it through to the baby through an umbilical cord. That's why you have a belly button. Most lizards lay eggs. Reptiles lay eggs. There are types of skinks. What you're referring to, I think, is the skink example they gave of some skinks have what appears to be a part of a placenta. Do they lay eggs or do they give live young? Let's see. There are 1,500 skink species in the world. So the mammal placenta is considered the pinnacle of reproductive evolution. Researchers describe the skink as the most impressive reptile example of a great feature that evolved no fewer than 132 times. So did the skink evolve the ability to have a placenta 132 times? There are no transitional fossils accompanying this popular evolutionary pathway have been found. The complex design of this placenta is not a copy of the mammal placenta, but it's unique. Evolutionists say this is convergent evolution. They've got a name for it: divergent, convergent evolution. The classical explanation for the existence of common features in organisms, for which even the best evolutionary minds cannot invent common ancestor. Extant live-bearing lizards. There are some lizards that bear live young, some lizards that lay eggs. At least 2 species of skink contain both egg-laying and live-bearing members. Touted as evidence for evolution, these species are actually good illustrations, not of evolution, but of genetic variation. The dual-mode skink that can do placenta or egg species exist in different climates, each variety being well adapted to the challenges of its environment. Maybe God created them to have this ability to handle different climate, colder weather, more nutrients for the baby before it's released on its own. There's no evidence the skink populations are changing their reproductive habits at all or evolving to a new kind of creature. They're still a skink. A skink with a true placenta, if they exist, the research is still going on, is no more of an example of evolution than an egg-laying mammal like a platypus. There are some mammals that lay eggs. That's the way they're designed. Each has features that appear to cross the man-made lines. You see, Luca, man made these lines and decided placenta, egg-laying. I don't think the animals care. Man made the lines and decided this is a cow and this is a palm tree. I don't think the cow cares what we call it. And they produce varieties after their own kind. And the cows, the bulls always look for the cows. They don't look for the pine trees. They don't look for the squirrels. They look for the cows. If you don't know what the same kind is, ask the male. They'll tell you. They can figure it out. Our male dogs around here show no interest whatsoever in the palm trees, other than to pee on them. Okay, let's see. God's creatures are not bound by our classification schemes. Birds and fish are not the only animals that lay eggs. Insects, turtles, lizards, and reptiles. Only 2 mammals lay eggs: octopus and echidna. All other mammals give birth to live babies. And there are several different types of echidna. So there are 5 different mammals that lay eggs, okay? So the fact that most animals in the world, 88%, counting birds and insects, lay eggs. That's because the mother bird gets pregnant, produces the egg, lays the egg, and then she can still fly around while the egg develops into the baby. If she had to carry those with her like human women do, pretty soon they get pretty uncomfortable and can't make it through the steps, up the steps to the mall, which saves a lot of money. But so being not having to carry the baby through to full term is a blessing to the birds, so they can keep flying around catching insects or whatever they do. So God designed some to lay eggs and some to give live birth. The octopus lays eggs and then dies. Who teaches the baby how to read and write and go to school and all that stuff? They don't have a mother. This is all octopus do this that I know of. So I think the example you gave of the skink is an example of great design. Some have what appears to be part of a placenta. Maybe they need that for their environment. I don't think it's been demonstrated that that is evidence for evolution. You can believe that if you like, and you may, but that's not evidence. Go ahead.
Yes, there is a very good thing about this lizard in particular, and there is a reason because I've chosen this lizard. So the problem here is we are talking about the same species, and in the same species you can find lizard with a placenta, without a placenta, and some structures in between. That's a problem because we are observing evolution right now here with experiments. So that's a problem because a lizard with a placenta can be explained. It's design. A lizard without a placenta, idem. A lizard that can be both and can be in between in the same species, that's hard to explain. We are observing evolution right now. Lizard with a placenta, lizard without, and lizard with something in between in the same species. And they are interfertile. So they are the same species. They are developing a placenta.
I don't know if they're developing a placenta. It looks to me like the research that's going on in that field says they've always had this ability. That particular type of skink has always had that ability. There are some mammals, most mammals give birth to live young, but there's a few that lay eggs. Is the duck-billed platypus evidence of evolution, or is it just designed to do that? See, I think you guys are so desperate for evidence for your theory that you see the skinks and say, wow, some of these skinks give live birth, some through what appears to be the beginning of a placenta in our way of thinking. It's a primitive placenta might be a way to put it. Okay, I think if they've always done that, has anybody ever seen this develop, or are they just now discovering it? I don't think it's evidence for evolution. Would that be enough to make you believe that an amoeba turned to a human?
Well, yes, but we need to go to the next line of evidence. First of all, I repeat, it's not like we are talking about different species of a lizard. We are talking about the same species. So we do find those lizards in various stages of evolving a placenta. That's a problem. So let's go to multicellularity, because I think that's the line of evidence that will be more important here, even though that I think that even the others are quite good. You said in your presentation that evolving multicellularity was never observed. So I do have a paper here, literally here, that says otherwise, with 2 instances of a multicellular organism coming from a monocellular one. So I want to hear your opinion on that.
What they have hoped for, they've known there's a giant leap going from a single-celled organism into multicellular. Many forms of life, they say we came from a primitive unicellular organism, and this is pure propaganda. No such evidence has been found. What they've done with the algae is they've discovered that some of them will clump together to defend themselves from a predator. If there's a paramecium introduced into the flask, after 750 generations, the algae banded together so the predator couldn't eat them. They're still algae, still the same single-celled creature, and when they go to reproduce, they break apart, reproduce separately. They don't reproduce as an organism. Each cell reproduces separately on its own. So no, this is not a multicellular creature. As I mentioned in my presentation, right here, they've never seen, never seen them become multicellular, right here. Why did single cells, major advances in evolution going from single-celled creature to multicellular happen long ago? Oh, so we can't see it. Why don't they do it today? The trichoplex is comprised of a few thousand cells. That's considered the simplest multicellular organism. So we have thousands and thousands of single-celled, and then you jump to a few thousand cells together to make this creature. This is not a single-celled creature. This is an animal with thousands of cells. It's really tiny. It's only 1 millimeter across, little bitty flat thing. And a flat organism, 1 millimeter in diameter, lacks any organs or internal structures. They are basal form. They're simple. The simplest in structure of all animals. 3 genera have been found, and they're complete animal. There is no evidence of a 2-celled creature anywhere in the world. None in the fossils, none in the alive today. No evidence of a 3-celled creature or 4-celled. You jump from 1 to thousands. they've got 4 different types of these, and of course they draw lines on paper connecting them back to the common ancestor. The different creatures like this that are very tiny, are complete, complex, and functioning. There's no relation, there's no proof that there's relation between these. Why do we allow the teachers to draw lines on paper and teach the students that that's science? A few thousand cells, 6 different types of these creatures. It's not a colony of single cells like the algae is. The algae did get together. Some of the algae produces a glue-like substance on its skin that sticks it to the next one when they touch. Now the predator can't open his mouth big enough. Oh, so they get away. It's still 2 cells. It's just no different than a country forming an army, get a bunch of soldiers together to protect themselves. Because a group in an army can do what one soldier cannot do. That's all. They didn't create anything. I'm sorry, this is not evidence for evolution. It's always been happening this way, nothing new. And what the example you give here is not going to turn an amoeba to a human or a whale.
Okay, so first of all, yes, they are multicellular. The most common configuration is 8-cell creature, and they do have a structure to reproduce. They have a particular cell that do the thing. Of course, the reproduction is asexual, and also they waited 4 years before say that this kind of trait was hereditary. So they left the alga alone without the paramecium for 4 years, and they are still multicellular. Most common configuration, 8 cells. And if you separate, if you cut away some cell, the organism will die. It's not even the single instance of this kind of observation. I have read about at least other 2 with different organisms. So yeah, we did see multicellularity arose in an experiment, and we did see it on the spot. So yeah, we did, and everyone that want to read the paper, it will find. I don't know if Donny will post the paper, but I did put the paper on my channel. So yeah, it was observed. I cannot say anymore. I can give you the name of the organism. It's Chlamydomas reynardi in this case, but we have a couple more. If you want, I can find them. It seemed that we are sure that's a response for predation also.
And what is your channel, Luca?
My channel is my name, Luca Medugno. It's a very small channel, no subscriber at all, almost. So yeah, I did post a video yesterday with my sources.
All right. So your evidence for evolution is you think it has been observed that a single-celled creature has become multicellular. I strongly disagree. And you think cows giving more milk is evidence for evolution. Are those the best 2 evidences you have?
Well, no, because it's a misrepresentation. First of all, it's not the quantity of milk, it's the structure needed to produce milk. In this case, more gland tissue and more blood vessel. Those are new. The cows has more blood vessel. Corn to teosinte are 2 different plants de facto. And also, I did some research. The mutation, we do know what kind of mutation led to the change, and they are not mutation that lose part of the genome. They were caused by some transposon mutated ones, of course. So we do know that we have an increase of genetic material in this case.
So do you think this algae that has gotten together, or a clump of cells together to flee from the paramecium predator, is that clump of cells going to develop lungs, bones, brain, eyes, ears, hair, like humans? You think that process would gradually develop into a human? That's enough evidence for you to believe that?
Well, it's the first step, of course. If you look in this way, you have a clear process. If you think that it's quite common, now we know that we can observe this kind of process, and we have some instances of this process observed. So if you have an animal, you will need to move because animals need to eat. So you will develop a structure that help you to do that. First of all, this digestive tract. Sorry. So it's not even that complex to imagine. It's just a channel through your body, and then you will need something to move. Of course, more you are small, more simple the structure are. But when you go to more cells, you will need more. So yeah, I see that. And with plants, you obviously do not. It's not enough to have mutation. You need to have an insertion of bacteria, probably capable to do photosynthesis. But we did observe that process too. Also, we do have plenty of evidence of that process. If you think mitochondria and chloroplast have a different membrane, a different kind of DNA, similar to bacteria, and we did observe a process like that in a salamander.
So do you think this multicellular algae cluster of cells will develop a mouth? Did it develop a mouth? You said it needs to eat. Did it develop a method of moving, or do each of the cells still move independently? Is it really more of a colony than an organism?
It's not a colony, it's an organism, and it will not develop, in my humble opinion, any structure to move, because it's basically a plant, it's an algae. So it can eat atmosphere, basically. It's why plants usually do not move and we do, because we need to eat, plants do not. That's the difference.
There is a great article on creation.com. If you could read that, Luca, about exactly this experiment you're talking about. They have a very lengthy article examining it very carefully. They took several groups of single-celled cladomonas, put them into test tubes with a single-celled predator, the protozoa, paramecium, which could consume them. After 750 generations, they discovered some of them had taken on a multicellular form. They were too big for the predators to eat. They were not fully multicellular, breaking apart into single cells before dividing, but seemed to go through a coordinated life cycle, much more like a colony or an army rather than a single unit. Okay? Is this a demonstration for evolution? You think it is? Many people think it is. These guys do a very thorough job of debunking that. Would you maybe on your channel, Luca Medugno, do a research, read what they say, and respond line by line, and explain how they're wrong. Several thousand, 20% of these behave differently after the test tube experiments than at the beginning. So if scientists in the laboratory can make something become multicellular, does that prove it did happen in nature by itself without scientists in the laboratory helping it?
Yes. So first of all, the experiments went on for 4 years, and in those 4 years, no paramecium was added. So no predator there. Why the organism is still multicellular? Also, it's not like the organism was dividing to reproduce. I do have the image of the process. It just creates single cells that start to develop and they reach maturity to usually 8-cell dimension. They have a slightly bigger organism in there and also a little bit of diversity, because we do have at least a couple of example of this process happening in this single experiment. So it's not a single event. There are two only in this experiment, and it's not the only experiment. And yes, they are multicellular, and they still are after 4 years when this paper was published, and I think that they still are 6-7 years after.
Okay. Did the algae develop any new genetic material? Is there new information being added? There were already some that had this glue substance that allowed them to stick together. Did they develop any new information, any new features besides clumping together? Did they develop, like I said, a mouth? Did they develop other things that plants have, a vascular system to transport the sap or the water or the oxygen or carbon dioxide? No, they did not develop a vascular system. They did not. There's no new information added. It's still an algae. Read the article on creation.com. It's excellent. Evolutionists would have us believe they're able to rapidly evolve a species exhibiting a type of multicellularity from unicellular to in a short time. This would give the impression that a major important evolutionary step has been observed, going from single cell to multicell, which is a major block for you guys. However, the picture is false. There is no evidence of a single new gene being produced, and not the slightest indication of how the genetic machinery for multicellularity could have evolved in the first place. This thing already had the ability to clump together. How did that get started? When we look at the finer details, we see the evidence supports creation, not evolution. The evidence implies these organisms used a highly complex genetic mechanism for switching from a single-cell state to a multicellular state. Maybe they've always been able to do this in the presence of predators. Maybe they were designed to do this. The mechanism didn't evolve, but already existed, simply needing to be switched on or activated. So it was created so as to permit this effect. God said all the plants, all the animals will bring forth after their kind. When God said all the animals will bring forth after their kind, do you believe God was lying? Do you believe the Bible is wrong on that point?
I'm an atheist, so I do not think anything about the Bible. I do not think it's true. I just think it's a book, but I do not want to be disrespectful. It's just that I do not believe in a God. So you made some question.
Actually,
Yes.
Luca, I'm just going to jump in here real quick. If you want to do a response here, we'll give Kent one more response. It'll be his final word for the discussion because we just hit the hour mark. Then we'll do closings and then an audience Q&A, and we'll make sure we wrap up right at the hour and a half mark. So, Luca, go ahead. We'll give you a response. Kent gets one final response for the discussion, and then we're doing closing statements. Go ahead, Luca.
Yes, genetic material addition. I gave an example here with the corn. I was talking about two mutation on two transposon that caused to the thiocynta to become corn. So it's possible to get new genetic material. We do have evidence for that. Also, we have mutation with duplication and things like that that can add material. Of course, in humans and organisms like us, most of the time those mutations are harmful, but not always. And of course, when they are not, they are selected. So you can have new materials. Also, you said that it's impossible to have a new gene. You do know how protein is made, the 4 level of protein structure, and how that work, because you can have new protein and new genes.
Okay, as you mentioned, most mutations are harmful. I would say all mutations observed have been harmful or fatal or neutral. They do nothing. We have some of the ducks in our flock down here that have a clump of feathers growing on their head, two of them like that. The bones of the skull don't grow together right, a mutation, and so it causes the feathers to grow funny. It's still a duck, it's still a feather, it didn't add any new material, it's not helpful. Probably in the wild it'd be harmful because it's another something for the predator to grab and hold on to. So I don't think it's been demonstrated that anyone has ever seen and documented and proven a beneficial mutation, and it would take quadrillions of beneficial mutations to turn an amoeba to a human. You'd have to add arms, legs, eyes, ears, nose, brain, sense of smell, sense of balance. Quadrillions of things have to be added to change an amoeba to a human. I don't understand how anyone can believe that that process happened by chance. But that's your religion, so keep it.
All right, Kent, thank you for that final response. Fantastic discussion, gentlemen. We got through all the topics: corn, cows, the reptile or skink example with the placenta, and then the single to multi-celled argument as well. So great job. We're moving into closing statements. Let's do 3 minutes each for a closing statement. Then we'll get into as many questions as we can. So Luca, we'll hand it to you. You got 3 minutes. Kent gets 3 minutes. Then we're going to do some questions. So whenever you're ready, okay. Luca, go ahead.
So I did enjoy the debate. Sorry for the various problems with my tech issues, but I think that I showed something interesting during this debate. Mutation can make things better. We do know that cows are mutated because we do have the original DNA from the aurochs, and also with insemination, that process would not work without basically natural selection and evolution doing their things. Corn, it's a very good example. Kent talked about corn variety, but teosinte, it's not corn. It's something a little bit different. And we do know that's result of mutation. And if you can find the paper with the exact mutation inside it, and they are mutation on transposons, so genetic material add in surplus basically. So it's not a reductive mutation at all. And yeah, multicellularity, those algae are multicellular now for quite some years, so we do know that's stable. Yeah, I think that it was a good debate, even though it was quite an adventure. I can stop there.
Okay, Luca, thank you so much for your concluding statement. We're going to hand it over to Kent now. Kent, you've got 3 minutes. Whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Luca, for getting up at 2 in the morning Italian time to do this debate. I apologize for that. You can blame Donnie for that, actually. But so thank you. And you're welcome to come visit.
Gentlemen.
Okay, you're welcome to come visit Dinosaur Adventureland in Lenox, Alabama anytime. The textbooks teach that all life forms have a common ancestor. All we've ever observed in the history of humanity is cows produce cows. You may get one with more milk or more hair or more beef, I agree, but it's always a cow. And going forward, it's predictable. It will always be a cow. Going backward, it's predictable. It always was a cow. But you guys want the kids to believe these little things that you mentioned tonight are enough evidence that we should teach them that an amoeba or a protozoa or a paramecium or an algae turned into a cow. I think that's not true. It's not science, that's for sure. These trees of life that they do in the textbooks are pure imagination. They imagine you came from an amoeba. We've never seen an amoeba produce a non-amoeba, never. So if you want to think a bunch of them can cluster together to avoid a predator, maybe that particular one always had that ability to avoid their predators. I don't know. It's a good field of research. But it's not evidence enough to say, kids, you and a hummingbird and a jellyfish have a common ancestor. I think that's criminal to teach that to kids. So, Luca, simple question. The textbooks show we are related to everything. Do you believe you are related to a cow? Just a yes or no.
Oh, I'm sorry, Luca, you're on mute.
Yes,
Go ahead.
I do.
Yes, you do. Okay. So Professor Dave is a strawberry. Who else is a mushroom? Okay. Q&A. Donnie, Q&A. I'm done.
All right, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Luca, Kent. Luca, thanks for doing this at 2 a.m. your time. You're in the future in terms of this debate. So, all right, let's get into some of these. Let's get into some of these questions, and we will start with, let's see here. I've got a ton of questions, guys, in the audience. So what I'm going to do is just stick to the most relevant ones. Okay, here we go. First one comes in from Patty Smith. Patty, thank you so much for your question. Super chat. Looks like this one is for you, Luca. So Patty's asking, Luca, naturally changing one protein to do something different requires a minimum of 6 coordinated mutations in precise locations. Not even Dr. Richard Lenski, 30-plus year bacterium lab experiment, came close. Why? Go ahead.
But I do not agree. To change the function of a protein, you need basically to change its primary structure, and every mutation can do that. If you remove some parts of the protein, you will have a different shape. It's quite difficult to explain without slides, but you start with the primary structures, so the order of the amino acids, and then you go up with the secondary structure, alpha helica or beta sheet, and then the interaction with sulfur. I cannot remember the name of the compound. Sorry, not the compound, the chemical, the chemical bond forming with those structure, and then the interaction between subunits. Those are the 4 level to change protein. And so no, a mutation can change the function of a protein, absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much, Luca, and thanks for the question, Patty. I'll hand it over to Kent if you had anything you wanted to add, brother.
Well, good question, and I think he's wrong. I don't think this has been observed. It's not science. You can believe it could if you'd like. But to coordinate, just to change a bicycle to a car, how many changes would need to be made? Thousands, millions, maybe millions? So to change a protein that codes for one thing, to change it to something else, is really a complicated procedure. And it's not observable. My whole point is, it's not science. You can believe it if you want. Science is what we know. We know cows produce cows. We know that. We do not know that cows came from an amoeba. You just stepped outside of science into a religion. Luca, you claim you're an atheist, and yet you do have a religion. You believe in evolution. Your God is time. Give it billions of years. It'll work. That's your God, time. I'm done.
Thank you very much, Kent. And Luca, we'll give you a quick final word since the question was for you.
As I said, you just need to change the primary structure to change the protein. So I can say no more. Also, time is important, yes, but what I show to you tonight are example for the most part that I did have some experience with myself, at least for the first two. I clonated my first plant and tinkered with GMO animal when I was 18 years old. So yes, I do have some experience with those things.
Okay, thank you very much, Luca. Moving on to the next question. This one is now for you, Kent. This one comes in from SWE, $10 super chat. Appreciate it. And she is asking, what does Kent think of bacterial resistance to both antibiotics like rifampicin? They do it by de-repressing sloppy polymerases. So when cells experience enough damage, they turn on a mutation. Go ahead, Kent.
Interesting question. It's true, bacteria do become resistant to antibiotics. If you had 1,000 bacteria and you introduced an antibiotic that kills bacteria, let's say 5 of them have a natural resistance to that. Then those 5 are the only ones that get to grow up and get married and have babies and make the next generation of bacteria. So very soon you would develop a whole bunch of bacteria in that location where the antibiotic is. The bacteria would become resistant to the antibiotic. It didn't create anything. It selected a slice of the existing bacterial code that's already existing. Some of them already had the resistance, or else they all would have died. Roaches can become resistant to pesticides. They will never become resistant to a sledgehammer. Never. You introduce a sledgehammer, you'll kill every roach, no matter how tough the shell is. And you introduce certain things, I tell you what, introduce a flamethrower, you'll kill every bacteria. There won't be any that are resistant to a flamethrower. So the fact that some might already have a resistance to antibiotic, then they take over the population in that area. That's not evolution. That's an example of design. That's an example of selecting a certain trait to survive. That's all it is. Cows giving more milk, another example. It didn't create the milk, it didn't create the udder. Just enhance the udder, that's all.
Thank you very much there, Kent. And Luca, over to you if there's anything you wanted to add.
Yes, I love bacteria and things like that because they are a very good example of evolution. They can mutate very, very fast. They do not care if some of them die, of course. And they also experience quite extreme form of evolution because they do have less protection for transposons, so you will see very good stuff there. Also, they can transmit even to us their genetic material. We do know, especially for plants, I was talking about corn, a sweet potato is another example. So yeah, bacteria are a very good example. And evolution, of course, it's not beneficial or not. If the organism can survive better, does not matter if the mutation itself is reproductive or not.
Okay, thank you, Luca. Kent, the question was for you. We can give you the last word.
No, nothing more to add to that. It's still a bacteria. That's not going to turn a bacteria to a human.
Okay, appreciate it. Next question that comes in is from George Bond. George Bond, thank you so much for the support and question. And he asked, question for Luca. How did Luca, not referring to you, Luca, I believe last universal common ancestor, evolve into the 3 domains of life? Viruses are not considered alive, so how did they evolve since they need a host? Question mark. Go ahead, Luca.
So for what I know, we do have example of non-cellular life that are not viruses. So I think there were things like virus, but not quite, that were working without an host. How did evolve how they did evolve the three domain of life. Very good question. I did answer in part, and I do not have 2 hours to explain. But yeah, you need to have an inclusion of some sort of bacteria for mitochondria and chloroplast. Mitochondria are there for basically every form of eukaryotic life. Then you have things like the chloroplast. It's quite like the mitochondria, but with difference. Of course, they can do photosynthesis. We do know how this process work, and for what I can recall, we even observe it. We do have quite a lot of evidence, even without that. Of course, mitochondria have a different form of DNA from the nucleus. The nucleus has chromatin, and the mitochondria does not, but it's quite a long story. Of course, plants do not need to move as much, so we have quite a difference there. So I can see why plants turn it up as they are, and we turn it up as we are. But it's a quite a long story, actually.
All right, thank you, Luca, for your response. Kent, anything you'd like to add?
Well, there was no last universal common ancestor. Cows have always made cows. Humans have always made humans. There is no common ancestor. So there is no last one. There never was one. It's all imagination, SpongeBob style. Just imagine you're related to a worm. Okay, you can imagine what you want. This isn't science. It's a religious belief that all animals can change to something else, and it's never observed. The little tiny changes we see are already in the gene code. No new information is added. I stand my case. God's word is correct. 20 times in the first 7 chapters, the Bible says they'll bring forth after their kind. That's all any farmer has ever seen in the history of the world. I think the Bible's true. Luca, you might want to read it with a different thought in mind. Go ahead.
Thank you, Kent. And Luca, quick final word since the question was for you, and then we'll move on to the next. Go ahead.
Yes, I think that it will be a very fine topic for another debate. I do love to talk about abiogenesis, as you know. I did a couple of debates on that. So if maybe in a near future or not that near, we will talk about that. And also, I want to give my compliments to the other. Sorry, nothing. Just a fan of stupid. The lady, basically. Sorry. Thanks.
No problem. No problem. And I think SWE here is the one you're thanking. Okay, so well, she's got a question for you now. Actually, looks like she's coming at you, Luca. So she asks, I'll put it up on screen here for Luca. Why do you think the human malaria-resistant hemoglobin S mutation, so it looks like she's coming at you with a technical one, originates more frequently in the gene and in the population where it is of adaptive significance? Are mutations non-random? Go ahead, Luca.
Okay, mutations are basically random. The thing it's not random, it's the selection. If you have pressure to select something, it will be selected. So that's my response. Mutations are basically random, but you need something to select those mutations, because if you are fine like you are, look, for example, sharks are pretty much the same from quite a long time. Why? Because they are quite good at their job. They can eat you just fine, and they can eat you. They can eat basically anything they stand in their path.
Okay, thank you, Luca, for your response. Kent, was there anything you'd like to add?
Well, yeah, I agree that mutations appear to be random. And natural selection could select some of those to be beneficial. But it only would be in that area where the selection pressure is on. It's not going to create anything new. Mutations are not going to create anything to turn an amoeba to a human. Billions and billions of new features. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen.
Okay, thank you very much, Kent. And Luca, question was for you. I'll give you a quick final word.
Yes, I think that I gave some very good example for new structure and new feature in animals or not in this debate. So let's stop there.
Okay, appreciate it. Next question comes in from Obamacare. Stand for Truth, the question for Luca. Is there a limit to mutation? So short and sweet. Go ahead.
Depends what you mean. Mutation are random. Of course, there are limits. You still need to mutate something. Of course, you can double some material. You can lose some other material. Yeah, limits, of course. There are physical limits. The sample you are taking, it does matter. So yeah, limits for sure, but depends on what kind of limits.
Okay, thank you, Luca. Kent, over to you.
I agree. It's obvious there are limits to mutations. If they get too far mutated, they die. And most mutations are fatal. If you can find one that you think is beneficial, it would be 1 in a billion, and it's not going to change anything. It's still the same creature. That's not evolution.
Okay, thank you very much. Kent, Luca, quick final word.
Yes, I think that I shown some good mutation there, so I think I'm good.
All right, next question comes in from Hurricane Havoc. Question for Luca. SFT, did a eukaryote and a prokaryote share a common ancestor, Luca?
Okay, as I said, it's not that simple because eukaryotes are basically a fusion between a bigger cell and a smaller one. I think a prokaryotic cell. So yeah, they do. It was a very primitive cell. Eukaryotic cell, they were basically carnivores cell that we do not know for certain, but the hypothesis is they were cells that they were hunting other cells. They basically eaten something like a prokaryote, and then they did not digest it, and that it does become quite a little bit lost, like the chloroplast, for example. So yeah, they do.
All right, thank you, Luca. Kent, over to you.
Well, obviously the evolution religion would believe this, but there's no evidence. There are lots of prokaryotes and eukaryotes today, like everything alive. Let's do it again. Make one change to the other. That would be science. It's not science to say, well, we believe it happened long ago and far away. Well, we can't observe it, we can't prove it, but we want to test the kids on it. That's not common sense, and it's not science. Go ahead.
Thank you, Kent. Appreciate it. Luca, quick final word.
Yes, I illustrated some evidence for it. We do observe different kind of DNA in the structures. So in the nucleus, we do have chromatin. We do not have those in chloroplast and things like that. We have something more similar to prokaryotic DNA. So that's a very good example. And also, we do have a different membrane in those chloroplasts and things like that. So yes, we do have quite a bit of evidence for that.
All right, thank you, Luca. Next question comes in from Patty Smith. Patty, thank you for the support and the question. And Patty asks, Luca, you said resistance or metabolizing different food sources are the same thing, but those are gene expression switches, not a protein doing something entirely different. Go ahead, Luca, however you'd like to respond.
Well, so I was wrong. If I'm wrong, sorry about that. I was trying to explain how you can change protein because mutation can do that. If you have a metabolic reason for those things, so I was wrong. Of course, metabolism is a different thing than gene expression.
Appreciate it, Luca. And Kent, was there anything you wanted to add, brother?
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay. Looks like we've got a few minutes left on the clock, so I'll pick one or two more questions out of this list. Why don't we do, let's see, something related to the debate. Okay, here we go. Boomer21, thank you for your question. He's asking a question for Luca. Mutations are a loss of information. How can a mutation then be beneficial?
So not always. We do have duplication mutation. Those are not a loss of information in any case. But also, how can you define information? Because if you scramble the letters, you will get a different structure in the protein, but you cannot say to have lost information. You have something different. If you delete something, maybe I can see your point, but not always it's the case. So yeah, you can increase information. The problem is to define information. It's not that easy because genes and the DNA at all does not work in such a simple way. So it's not that linear.
Okay, thank you, Luca. And Kent, if there's anything you'd like to add, go ahead.
Mutations are not, I would say the question maybe should be rephrased. Mutations are a scrambling of existing information. Scrambling up an English sentence, how long would it take that to produce the same sentence in Italian? It'll never happen. It's same information, same 26 letters, but scrambling them, you always lose things. You lose the meaning. To change a sentence in English to Italian by simply scrambling the letters randomly, I think is impossible. But that's what a mutation is. It's a scrambling of already existing information. I know scrambling the sentence in English will never produce a Chinese sentence. Now that I know.
Okay, Kent, thank you so much. Luca, you get the last word on that question. Go ahead.
So yeah, you can. Why? Because if you have something scrambling the letters, yes, you will not get anything intelligible. I agree, but if you have a mechanism to select the words with a meaning in Italian, yes, you can. That's the problem.
All right, and well, it looks like I just got a super chat that came in, but I'm not sure if it's an actual question. Okay, so here's the last question as we reach the hour-and-a-half mark. This one's going to be for Kent, and then we are going to wrap it up, gentlemen. I appreciate the good debate. So this one comes in from Bob Vandelay. Final question for the night. Question for Kent. What do you make of the Millie-Urey experiment? For those unaware, this experiment was the one where amino acids were created in the laboratory, aka life from non-life. Go ahead, Ken.
There's a long answer to that on ICR, Institute for Creation Research.org. If you want to go down deep, stay down long. They did not create life. They mixed chemicals together in a fancy chemistry experiment and produced some of the building blocks that are necessary. This did not create life by any stretch of the imagination. So I think it's a wild imagination, SpongeBob style, to believe that would help the evolution theory get life from non-life. There are multiple steps that create problems for evolution. Going from nothing to having matter is a giant step. Going from nothing to having matter, and then having that matter come alive. That's another giant step, the origin of life. Going from a single-celled living creature into multicellular is what basically he was talking about tonight. That's another giant step. It's a religious belief. So Miller and Urey did not do anything to help the cause. They just simply proved you can do a chemicals experiment and make new chemicals. They didn't create anything alive.
All right. Thank you very much there, Kent and Bob. Thanks for the question. Luca, anything you wanted to quickly add? Oh, I think you might be on mute, Luca. Let me, yeah. It says you're on mute, Luca.
There we go.
So, I want to add something, and it's quite important. First of all, Miller Urey did a very good experiment. It was very interesting, but it's quite an old experiment. I would suggest to read something about David Dreamer. He got much closer to life, and it's very good to read, in my humble opinion.
Okay, thank you, Luca. Kent, final word goes to you.
No, nothing to add.
All right, gentlemen. Well, we've made it to the end. Thank you so much. Good opening statements, fantastic discussion, and a very thorough audience Q&A. We got through quite a few questions tonight. So final words, final thoughts from the debaters. Thank you so much again for doing this. Luca Medugno, let's start with you. Again, thank you for taking the Evolution Debate Challenge series, specifically tonight on beneficial mutations. Luca, go ahead.
Yes, it was a pleasure to be here. I think that I did reasonably well, all things considered. It was a tough night, but I did have a lot of fun. So that's good. Have a good night.
Thank you, Luca. Luca, I had a lot of fun as well, so I appreciate it. Dr. Dino, over to you. Final words, final thoughts. Thanks for doing this, brother.
And thank you for having me, and thank you, Luca, for getting up in the middle of the night in Italy. Now, if I said I don't believe in Italy, I think you'd think I was a fool. I think if a person doesn't believe in God, he's a fool. That's what the Bible says. I have to second that emotion. I think there has to be a designer. There had to be a designer for this pencil. It doesn't happen. A single cell in your body with 100 trillion atoms in one cell had to have a designer. If you want to believe it happened by chance, that's not science, that's imagination. I don't think that'll go well for you Judgment Day. Someday you're going to have a tombstone, Luca, just like that with your name on it, and 2 dates in there. First one's already been determined, your birthday. Your death date, hope it's a long time from now, but it's coming. Then what? What happens after you die? Think about that, because you'll be dead for a really long time. If you'd like to know more about going to heaven, I'd be glad to talk to you about that. Non-argumentative, 855-BIG-DINO, extension 3. Take calls all day. So I'll be glad to talk. Thank you so much.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you, Dr. Dino. Thanks again, Luca. Thank you to the audience for tuning in. And I appreciate all the solid questions that people sent in. One quick reminder, in exactly half an hour from now, we will be premiering a special premiere from the movie Dismantled. So please click the link that I've got pinned, and I think everybody will enjoy. So with that being said, again, thank you so much for tuning in, and Standing for Truth is out. God bless all. All right, there we go. Another one in the books in terms of just debates in general, hosted by Standing for Truth Ministries, and another one in the books for our prolific 2022 Evolution Debate Challenge series. This series has been a ton of fun. When we came up with the idea at the end of December, we assumed we're going to get a few debates, a debate here and there, but we did not know that we'd be getting on average 3 debates a week. So it's been a ton of fun, and I'm still flooded with requests. So it looks like this challenge series will be realistically just a year straight of just nonstop debate. So I think we've done now close to 40 of them since we issued the challenge. And Kent's 300th debate, which is going to be a debate within this series, I just booked for, I believe it's August 29th. I got all the details, and I'm just going to get a thumbnail together, and I am going to set it. And it's going to be a big one. It's going to be an epic debate. So it's going to be between obviously Kent and then also a PhD evolutionary biologist. I believe he's got 2 PhDs. His name's Dr. J. Let me just double check. Don't want to say it wrong. J. Bundy, Dr. J. Bundy. So he's, I believe, worked under Dr. Richard Lenski, and he's co-authored several of the papers in regard to the long-term E. coli experiment. So this is going to be a great debate, and I'm pumped. And tonight's debate I've been looking forward to for a while. Luca Medugno, Dr. Kent Hovind, thank you so much for making a debate to remember. Very comprehensive. So, we had discussion on corn, cows, single to multi-celled algae, the example that's been brought up quite frequently lately. There was a good discussion on that. And then lizards and specifically skinks in terms of the evolution of a true placenta. So very good debate, comprehensive. Share this around, guys, because Stand for Truth Ministries, we strongly believe in critical thinking. And one way we uphold critical thinking skills is by hosting so many debates on so many different topics, where rather than, the channel, the ministry being an echo chamber, a good way to review arguments and strengthen arguments and models is to get people of different views in for a sophisticated discussion or debate. And that's what the debate octagon is for. So I do want to, give a special thanks to all our debaters, all the debaters that give us their time for these important debates. Because realistically, if it wasn't for the debaters, debating's not easy, or else everybody would do it. So if it wasn't for the debaters brave enough to enter the octagon numerous times a week, we wouldn't have so many awesome debates. I do want to remind everybody, I've got the link pinned. Okay, so we've got a special premiere. It is scene 4, specifically dealing with genetic related evidence for Adam and Eve. Credit goes to backtogenesis.org. They're doing some fantastic work. And of course, I've received permission to premiere this clip on the channel because I want this clip to go out to as many people as possible, as I believe it's about 20 minutes and provides some really just undeniable, irrefutable, and overwhelming evidence for biblical creation, separate ancestry, independent origins, a literal Adam and Eve. Many of my personal favorite arguments are presented in this clip. So it is going to premiere right after this in about 15 minutes. So just make sure to click the link. You won't regret it. It really is a fantastic video. Now, it is scene 4 in a greater film called Dismantled. So I would say that's a must-have and a must-watch film. And all the relevant links are in the description box of that premiere that is currently pinned. So make sure to click it. I'll even leave the link here so we can get a nice solid chat for that premiere to discuss the video, because it is a very good video. So anyways, I want to go over a few reminders in terms of upcoming debates. So again, reminder, the 29th of August, the big Kent versus Jay debate on evolution. Is there reasonable scientific evidence for evolution? And I've also, I'm in the final stages of confirming several more debates in terms of the Evolution Debate Challenge series, including another debate with Daria from last week, which was very entertaining. That one was a debate to remember. The title of that one was How Are Whales and Pine Trees Related? Round 2 is going to be How Are Humans and Chimpanzees Related? So this looks like it's going to turn into an interesting series. So coming up soon, hopefully, I've got a few debates that I got to personally fit in to the already hectic schedule for the summer. So our endogenous retroviruses, evidence that humans and chimps share a common ancestor. I've written a book on endogenous retroviruses, which I just gave a lecture or a presentation on Kent Hovind's channel a few nights ago. So if you haven't seen it, please check it out. This one's not the special edition cover. That's behind me, the orange one, limited edition. So if you have not yet picked up this book, please do. And I look forward to engaging Luca on that one. That one's coming up. We've also got coming up soon the round 2 between Charles Jennings and David Preston. This one is going to be specifically on James 2. We've also got in a couple of weeks another hyper-specific formal debate, soteriology related. It's going to be on 2 Peter 2:20, which we just had a panel discussion debate several weeks ago. There's close to 10 of us discussing that important verse. So the thesis will be, does 2 Peter 2:20 teach that a believer can lose his salvation? That's going to be between Merritt and Charles Jennings. This one here is between David Preston and Charles Jennings. We've also got T-Jump and T-Rock, Battle of the T's, coming up this month too. Creation versus evolution. Tomorrow night, we've got T-Rock and Snake Was Right. They're going to be debating an interesting topic. Is evolution evil? So that's tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. So definitely make sure you're going to be there for that. Matt Slick's going to be back here. He's going to be debating Stanley Terry at the end of this month. Was Jesus fully God and fully man during his earthly ministry? And CJ Cox, he's going to be here on the 12th debating Will Duffy, specifically on open theism. So definitely check that. I think we've hosted now over 210 debates, and I believe that is going to be the first debate that we've hosted specifically on open theism. So I'm definitely pumped for that one. Then we've got CJ Cox and David Preston. Are modern English translations dangerous and untrustworthy? I've got a playlist for those that love this topic, because this topic's been getting a lot of feedback. There's a lot of hype for this topic, and I think we've now hosted 4 or 5 of these. So there is a playlist, and I've got 3 more. 2 fully confirmed. We've also got Will Kinney versus Mark Gageton, I believe is his name. They're going to be debating the Bible translation issue. And then another debate that I'm currently working on for September. If you have not yet seen, I've been doing a end times theology series. And, you know, praise the Lord, it's been getting a lot of feedback. A lot of people are enjoying it. I should be filming the next episode, hopefully tonight, and then posting it. But after the first, I think it was 5 episodes, we did an open mic post-tribulation rapture versus pre-tribulation rapture debate. This one was fun. I think it's sitting at 5,000 views already. Dr. Kent Hovind was here, and we had a packed house for nearly 3 hours. And it was an open mic debate, lots of different people of different views. We even got a little preterism debate in there. So if you haven't yet seen that one, please do go back about a week to a week and a half to make sure to check this one out, because this one was fun. So, and that reminds me, the last thing I want to mention is first thing in September. So we're going to be having from September 5th to September 8th, we're going to be having our Defending Genesis Conference 2022. So we had the conference last year. We've had several conferences. The last conference we had was the Flood Boundaries Conference, which was incredibly comprehensive. It's a must watch. If you haven't yet seen it, please do check it out. It was a collaboration event with us, Standing for Truth Ministries, and also the Creation Research Team, which are some of my favorite creationists. John Mackay, the creation guy, Joseph Hubbard. These brothers are doing fantastic work. They're bringing it to the evolutionists. They're doing so much good research on the flood. So that was our last conference. But yes, again, from the 5th to the 8th, we're going to be having our Defending Genesis Conference 2022, Standing for Truth Ministries Defending Genesis Conference. So we've got about 8 speakers. So most of the Standing for Truth Ministries team members, like myself, Matt Naylor, Professor David McQueen, we're all going to be speaking. You're not going to want to miss Matt's presentation. It's going to be epic. He's been working on it for several weeks already, called Genesis Genetics. And it's going to be a ton of fun. I'm going to be giving a presentation as well. We've got Dr. Jerry Bergman, who's going to be here. We've got Joseph Hubbard, who's going to be here. We've got Sal Jardina. CJ Cox is going to be giving a presentation, Countering Compromise. And Professor David McQueen, of course. So again, we're going to be having about 8 speakers in 4 days. So it'll be about two shows a day. And it'll wrap up on the 8th. And then the 9th is going to be a debate on evolution. It'll be the rematch between Kent and David Emery. So that'll be a really, really busy but awesome week. Okay, so anyways, that's kind of all that comes to mind in terms of reminders and updates. Thank you, everybody, for still being here during this section of the show. Again, share this debate around. Luca Medugno and Kent Hovind really made for an epic, comprehensive, technical debate tonight. I love the topics that were discussed, and it was a very good back and forth between Luca and Kent. This was definitely an awesome debate. These types of debates are important. They're sophisticated. It's 2022. And, you know, a solid way to determine truth or challenge different positions and models, again, is to enter the debate octagon and, you know, kind of hash out these differences and come to the truth that way. So again, thank you so much. Please click the link. It's now exactly 10:15. We will be premiering scene 4, Adam and Eve, genetics, from the must-watch and must-own film Dismantled, that has been produced and released by backtogenesis.org. So with that being said, thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow night for a debate between T-Rock and Snake Was Right on Is Evolution Evil? So I'm excited for that one. That's going to be fun. Okay, guys, Standing for Truth is out. Thank you for joining us for this awesome debate. Please share around this content. Hit that subscribe button. We're almost at 10.5 thousand subscribers. And also make sure to subscribe to our secondary channel, Young Earth Creation, where we do re-upload a lot of our videos here. And I think we're sitting at about 21,000 subscribers there. So again, God bless. Standing for Truth is out.